Let me start with this truth: karma isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or spotlight. Karma works quietly, invisibly, weaving its consequences in the shadows long before the world notices. It's a force as precise as a sniper's bullet, aimed straight at the heart of what one has put out into the universe. And when it hits, it's undeniable, yet often unfolding silently. You may wonder, how can you tell when karma is already at work, when the scales are tipping and the universe is balancing itself, even though no headlines are made? Here are 5 unmistakable signs that someone is already receiving their karma. But silently, behind the scenes. Life's natural balance is a delicate system, an intricate web of cause and effect that responds to the energy we emit into the world. When someone acts with integrity, kindness, and respect, that web tightens, supporting their growth and success. But when actions are selfish, deceitful, or harmful, that same web begins to unravel quietly, imperceptibly at first. The shifts are subtle, like the faintest ripple in a still pond, almost invisible to the casual observer, yet profound in their unfolding. This invisible recalibration starts in small, almost unnoticeable ways. A person who has disregarded fairness or exploited others may find themselves encountering unexpected obstacles in areas where they once moved effortlessly. Business deals that once closed with ease suddenly become fraught with delays and complications. Relationships that seemed solid begin to feel tenuous, though no one says why. These are not random misfortunes but the universe's way of restoring equilibrium. The energy they put out, whether negative or dishonest, begins to return in the form of these subtle disruptions. Often, these shifts manifest as a series of disappointments that pile up quietly. A promotion that was anticipated doesn't come through. A long-time friend becomes distant without clear cause. The trust others once placed starts to erode without any major confrontation. These cracks in the foundation don't always appear dramatic but slowly chip away at a person's foundation. It's a gentle but persistent nudge that something is out of alignment. The people around them may start to notice changes in their behavior or reputation, even if the person themselves is unaware. Conversations become more cautious, invitations become fewer. There's an unconscious distancing, as if others are sensing an invisible shift. This distancing is a subtle but telling sign that karma is already in motion, quietly recalibrating the natural balance that has been disturbed. In some cases, the environment itself responds. Where there was once harmony, tension arises. Colleagues may feel uneasy around the person, sensing inconsistencies or hidden motives. Opportunities that once flowed freely begin to dry up without explanation. The person may find themselves excluded from important conversations or projects, as trust begins to erode in ways that can't easily be explained but are deeply felt. This rebalancing process is relentless yet silent, and the person may try to brush off these signs as coincidence or bad luck. But luck, after all, is the residue of design. The subtle shifting of life's natural balance is karma's fingerprint, an invisible hand that nudges the scales back toward fairness. It is never instantaneous or loud, but it is always inevitable and precise. The deeper the imbalance, the more persistent these subtle signs become. Small frustrations start to compound into larger patterns of loss or failure. It might be a missed deadline, a failed negotiation, or a falling out with someone once trusted. The cumulative effect is a slow but sure withdrawal of support from life itself. Energy that once seemed abundant begins to dissipate, leaving behind a growing sense of resistance in everything the person attempts. Sometimes the person experiences a dissonance between expectation and reality that grows increasingly difficult to ignore. They may feel stuck, unable to move forward despite efforts and resources. This stagnation is a natural consequence of karma's recalibration, where the universe halts progress until lessons are learned and balance is restored. What feels like a roadblock is actually an invitation to pause and reflect. In this process, the person might begin to feel isolated, not necessarily because of overt rejection but because the natural flow of connection is disturbed. Others may be less inclined to engage, to trust, or to extend support. It's a silent distancing that leaves the individual on an island, confronted by the reality that their previous actions have consequences that ripple outward far beyond their immediate awareness. This slow erosion of connection is karma's way of showing that no action is without consequence. Throughout all this, the signs remain quiet and often internalized, making them easy to dismiss or overlook. Yet the subtle shifts in life's natural balance are one of the most powerful indicators that karma is at work. They are the universe's soft but steady voice, reminding us that every action, no matter how hidden, sets off a chain reaction that will eventually come home. The mask someone wears is often crafted with great care, designed to conceal their true intentions, feelings, or character from the world. It might be a facade of charm, confidence, or kindness, carefully maintained to hide darker motives beneath. But no mask is perfect, and over time, the cracks begin to show. These cracks are rarely dramatic or sudden. Instead, they creep in quietly, almost imperceptibly, revealing glimpses of the truth lurking underneath. This slow unmasking is a powerful sign that karma is already at work, pulling back the curtain on what was once hidden. At first, the mask holds firm because the person has invested so much in maintaining the illusion. They carefully control their words and actions to avoid suspicion. They rehearse the roles they want others to see, whether that of the loyal friend, the hardworking professional, or the generous benefactor. But sustaining this act takes energy and focus, and over time, the effort wears on them. Small inconsistencies begin to slip through, unnoticed by many but felt by those who observe closely. These inconsistencies might appear as subtle contradictions in their stories or behaviors. Maybe one day they express a certain value but act in opposition the next. Perhaps they show kindness in public but reveal impatience or cruelty behind closed doors. The mask, once seamless, starts to develop small fissures. Moments where the true self breaks through despite the best attempts at concealment. Sometimes, the mask slips because of pressure from external forces. When the person is stressed, under scrutiny, or facing unexpected challenges, their guard weakens. In these vulnerable moments, glimpses of their real character emerge. A careless word, an unfiltered reaction, or a fleeting expression can expose what they've tried so hard to keep hidden. These moments may seem insignificant at the time, but are the first signs of karma's silent work. Others may begin to notice the discrepancy between the person's image and their actions. Friends, colleagues, or acquaintances might feel a growing sense of doubt or unease. They pick up on the subtle cues, the hesitation in their voice, the fleeting looks of frustration, or the inconsistent behavior that betray the falsehood beneath the mask. Trust, once given freely, starts to erode without anyone saying a word. As the mask continues to slip, the person may become defensive or evasive when questioned. They might double down on their facade, trying to repair the cracks with lies, excuses, or manipulation. But these attempts only deepen the fissures, making the facade more fragile and more obvious to those paying attention. The more they try to hide, the more exposed they become. In some cases, the mask slips because the person unconsciously reveals their true nature. Habits, mannerisms, or patterns that were once suppressed resurface. Perhaps old behaviors like gossiping, deceit, or arrogance emerge when they think no one is watching. These unconscious reveals are powerful signals that karma is working internally, unsettling the balance between appearance and reality. The internal conflict caused by wearing a mask can be draining and disorienting. The person may feel fragmented, as if living two lives, one public and one private. This division creates tension that is difficult to sustain over time. The mask becomes a prison, trapping them in a cycle of fear and dishonesty, while karma patiently waits to dissolve the illusion. Even when the mask remains intact in public, those closest to the person might begin to see the cracks. Family members, close friends, or trusted colleagues often sense the discrepancy before anyone else. They witness moments of vulnerability or hidden resentment that contradict the polished exterior. This intimate insight often foreshadows the deeper unraveling that karma is orchestrating quietly behind the scenes. Ultimately, the slipping of the mask is not just about exposure. It's about truth demanding to be seen. It is karma's way of peeling away layers of deception, forcing the person to confront who they really are beneath the surface. The longer the mask stays on, the harder this reckoning becomes, but the universe's justice is patient and precise. Inner turmoil is a silent storm raging beneath the surface, often invisible to the outside world but devastating in its intensity. It starts as a faint unrest, a whisper of doubt or guilt that stirs quietly in the depths of the mind. For someone already receiving their karma, this internal conflict grows stronger, more persistent, until it becomes impossible to ignore. The soul is burdened by the weight of actions and choices that contradict their own sense of morality or justice, and no amount of distraction can drown out the growing noise inside. This turmoil often manifests as anxiety, a restless, gnawing sensation that keeps the mind in constant motion. The person finds themselves unable to settle, plagued by racing thoughts and a persistent feeling of unease. Sleep becomes elusive as their subconscious refuses to grant peace. Dreams turn into restless nightmares, reflections of their unresolved conflicts and fears. Even in moments of quiet, the mind remains a battlefield where regret and denial clash endlessly. The heart, too, feels the strain. Emotional turmoil seeps in, creating waves of shame, anger, and sadness that can overwhelm without warning. The person might experience sudden mood swings, irritability, or profound sadness that feels disproportionate to the circumstances. These emotional upheavals are a direct response to the internal dissonance caused by karma's subtle reckoning. It is as if the soul itself is trying to cleanse, to confront the consequences of past deeds that have yet to be fully acknowledged. At times, this inner conflict causes a sense of isolation. The person may feel disconnected not only from others but from themselves. There is a growing alienation from the identity they have constructed, a sense that they are losing control over who they are. This fragmentation makes it difficult to find clarity or direction. The more they try to push the turmoil away, the more it tightens its grip, creating a vicious cycle of inner struggle. The silence of this torment makes it especially cruel. Unlike external punishment or confrontation, inner turmoil is invisible and often misunderstood by others. It leaves the person feeling trapped in a prison of their own making, unable to express the depth of their pain or the complexity of their thoughts. This solitude amplifies the suffering, making the burden feel heavier and more unbearable. Physical symptoms often accompany this inner distress. The body responds to the mind's turmoil with fatigue, tension, headaches, digestive issues, or unexplained aches. These manifestations are the body's way of communicating the weight of unresolved karma, signaling that the imbalance affects the whole being, not just the mind or emotions. The person may not connect these symptoms to their internal struggles, but they are part of the same hidden reckoning. As the inner turmoil intensifies, the person may seek relief in unhealthy ways, substance abuse, compulsive behaviors, or escapism, attempting to silence the restless mind and aching heart. These attempts at avoidance only deepen the cycle of suffering, creating new layers of consequence and further entangling them in karma's web. True peace remains elusive, because the core issues remain unaddressed. The relentless nature of this inner conflict forces a reckoning, whether the person is ready or not. It demands honesty, reflection, and ultimately, acceptance of responsibility. The turmoil acts as an internal compass, pointing to the areas where healing and change are needed. It may be painful, but it is also necessary, a vital process of breaking down old defenses to allow growth and redemption. Despite the heaviness of this silent suffering, it holds the potential for transformation. When the person finally confronts their inner turmoil with courage and openness, they begin the journey towards self-awareness and integrity. The darkness inside, while overwhelming, can illuminate the path to healing if met with honesty and commitment. Until then, the inner storm rages on, an unyielding force of karma working quietly to restore balance. When someone tries to control or manipulate the world around them, it's often born from a place of fear of losing power, fear of exposure, or fear of the consequences of their own actions. They believe that by pulling strings behind the scenes, shaping narratives, or bending others to their will, they can maintain their facade and keep karma at bay. But karma is not so easily fooled. The more one tries to dominate the flow of events or the people in their orbit, the more resistance they encounter, and the more obvious the backlash becomes. Control, by its nature, demands constant effort and vigilance. The person must monitor conversations, manage perceptions, and carefully engineer outcomes to fit their agenda. This is exhausting work requiring deception, half-truths, and sometimes outright lies. But the human mind and social networks are complex systems, and no manipulation can be perfectly maintained forever. The threads of control begin to fray, revealing inconsistencies that others can sense even if they can't immediately identify their source. When these efforts to manipulate backfire, it often happens in ways that feel sudden or inexplicable to the manipulator. A carefully laid plan unravels due to an unexpected variable, a person who refuses to comply, a secret that slips out, or a situation that spirals beyond their control. These disruptions may appear as failures, misunderstandings, or betrayals, but they are, in truth, the natural consequences of attempting to subvert the organic flow of life. The backlash is often more intense because manipulation breeds distrust. Once others detect the controlling behavior, they become wary and resistant. Relationships that once seemed stable begin to deteriorate as people sense the underlying deceit or coercion. The person's influence diminishes, not because of their abilities, but because their credibility and integrity have been compromised. The very attempts to hold on to power ironically result in its loss. In some cases, the manipulator's actions create a ripple effect that harms even those closest to them. Family, friends, or colleagues may become unwitting pawns in the game, caught in the crossfire of control efforts gone awry. This collateral damage deepens the karmic consequences, as the person's actions not only backfire on themselves but also fracture the bonds that once supported them. Isolation follows as a natural outcome. The frustration and desperation that come with losing control often intensify the manipulator's efforts, creating a vicious cycle. They may double down on tactics, becoming more aggressive or deceitful in an attempt to regain lost ground. But this only accelerates the breakdown, pushing people further away and making reconciliation more difficult. The harder they push, the more resistance they face. Manipulation also erodes the manipulator's self-trust and self-awareness. They become consumed by paranoia, constantly questioning whether others are plotting against them or discovering their true nature. This internal distrust mirrors the external chaos they have sown, creating a fractured inner world where peace is impossible. The person becomes trapped in a web of their own making, unable to break free. As their control slips away, the manipulator may experience moments of profound helplessness and vulnerability, feelings they have long avoided or suppressed. These moments expose the hollowness of their constructed identity and force them to confront the reality that true power comes from authenticity, not domination. Karma, through these backfires, teaches the hard lesson that manipulation is ultimately self-defeating. Despite all attempts to the contrary, the universe has a way of restoring balance. The efforts to control or manipulate are met with resistance that grows stronger until the scales are tipped back to fairness. This rebalancing is inevitable and impartial, reflecting the natural law that every action invites a corresponding reaction. The more the person struggles to maintain their false control, the more karma quietly tightens its grip. This process, while difficult and often painful, is part of a larger transformation. It dismantles the illusions of power built on manipulation and forces the individual to face their true self. Only by relinquishing control and embracing accountability can they begin to repair what has been broken and realign with life's natural order. Until that surrender happens, every attempt to manipulate will only deepen the cycle of resistance and backfire. Life has a way of holding up a mirror to those who try to evade truth, forcing them to confront themselves in ways they never anticipated. This reflection is not always literal, but it is deeply symbolic. Moments and experiences arise that compel a person to see the consequences of their actions reflected back at them. It can come in the form of a painful encounter, an unexpected betrayal, or simply the undeniable results of their choices manifesting in their life. Karma ensures that no deception lasts forever. Eventually, the truth becomes unavoidable. At first, facing their own reflection can be jarring or even terrifying. People often resist looking too closely, afraid of what they might discover beneath the surface. It's easier to maintain denial or rationalize behavior than to confront the harsher realities of character and consequence. But life's relentless push removes these comforts. The reflection is presented clearly, with no distortion or filters, revealing the authentic self, flaws, mistakes, and all. This reflection forces self-examination on a profound level. The person begins to see patterns that were once invisible or ignored. They recognize the harm caused to others, the lies told to themselves, and the moments when they chose selfishness over empathy. It is a reckoning that goes beyond surface-level apologies. It demands deep acknowledgement and ownership. Avoiding this reflection only prolongs suffering, as the truth waits patiently, unchanging. Often, the reflection comes through the reactions of others. People who were once deceived or hurt may now stand as living evidence of the person's past behavior. Their disappointment, anger, or indifference acts as a mirror showing what the manipulator has truly become in the eyes of those around them. These external reflections intensify the internal struggle, pushing the individual toward a breaking point where denial becomes impossible. The emotional weight of facing oneself can be overwhelming. Shame, guilt, regret, and sorrow emerge in full force, each demanding attention and resolution. This flood of emotion is part of the cleansing process, stripping away layers of pride and self-justification. It is painful but necessary. A vital step in dismantling the defenses that kept the person disconnected from their authentic self and others. At times, the reflection might come in quieter, subtler ways. A moment of solitude where the person feels utterly exposed, or a sudden realization triggered by a seemingly small event. These moments often carry profound clarity, cutting through the noise of excuses and distractions. They reveal the true cost of their actions, not just externally but to their own peace and integrity. Facing their own reflection also forces the person to reckon with the future they are creating. They begin to understand that continuing on the current path will only deepen their suffering and alienation. The mirror offers a choice: continue denying and deflecting, or embrace change and growth. This choice is daunting but essential for breaking free from the cycle of karma that binds them. The reflection is relentless, returning again and again whenever the person tries to avoid it. No amount of manipulation or control can obscure it. Each encounter with this truth chips away at the facade, exposing vulnerabilities and weaknesses that must be addressed. It humbles even the most stubborn, teaching that true strength comes from honesty and self-awareness. In this process, the person may begin to glimpse the possibility of redemption. Recognizing one's reflection is the first step toward transformation, a painful but hopeful sign that change is within reach. It signals the moment when denial breaks, and accountability begins to take root. Until this recognition occurs, however, life continues to hold the mirror firmly, refusing to let the person turn away.